Good afternoon. I am going to try to go through the Chapter 4 PowerPoints I wanted to cover today in class. Please go through them at your own pace. You can pause, rewind this video as much as you want. I'll put the PowerPoints on Moodle as well so that you can print them off if you want to and use them yourself. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'll be checking email periodically throughout the day, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. I'll also be using StatCrunch throughout these, so if you want to open StatCrunch yourself so that you can see what I'm doing, you can. Make sure you are paying attention to what's going on though, because the things we do with StatCrunch today, we're going to be using them a lot throughout the rest of the semester. So here we go. So this first section here is section 4.1. We're talking about what is average, and what we're really saying is what are measures of center in a distribution. So measures of center is a word that we're going to be using a lot today. And we think about what is an average. We usually think about adding up a bunch of numbers and dividing by however many things there were. If I wanted to find the average age of students in this class, for example, I would record all of your ages and then just divide by 30, because that's how many of y'all are in the class. So what we're doing there is actually the mean. In this section, we're going to show that there are more than one measure of average. We're going to look at mean, median, and mode for our measures of average here. So whenever we say average, we're kind of being a little lazy in the word of the mean, and I'll do it too. I mean, if I'll ask you to find the average of something, most of you will automatically say, okay, it's the mean. But we want to be careful when we're doing that, okay? There we go. So if I want to find the measures of center in a distribution, there's three measures of center we're going to look at. The first one is like what I just said, the mean. It's what we most commonly call the average. So it's found by taking the sum of all the values and dividing by the total number of values. Finding the mean is probably the easiest way we can find the average. The median is the middle value of the sorted set of data. It's either halfway between the two middle values in a number if the set is even. If it's an odd number of values, it's just going to be that middle number. So the median is going to be the middle value. And you always want to make sure that when you're looking at the median, you're looking at a sorted data set. So it means to be an order, either increasing or decreasing order. And then the mode is just the most common value that appears. So it's ever how, like the number, like in our class, for example, you all are mostly first year, so I bet the mode of the ages is either going to be 18 or 19. But it depends on however many people it was. Say in our class, for example, 10 people were 18 and 10 people were 19. Well, we very well could have two modes in that case. So you very well may have a bimodal data set. We will look at some things that are bimodal and trimodal, so we're going to look at different data sets here. So just be careful when we're talking about mode. An outlier in a data set is a value that's either much higher or much lower than almost all other values. You're thinking about an outlier, you could think about a very common one that some textbooks I've seen talk about the average starting salary of people when they finish college. And one looks at the average of humanities majors that were at UNC Chapel Hill. And one of those majors back in the 80s was Michael Jordan. And if you look at his salary, it's going to skew everybody else's salaries because it's so much higher than the other ones, and that can mess with the data. The mean of a data set is almost always affected by an outlier. Not always, though. Like if you have a huge data set, you might find that the mean is not affected at all. But if any of the averages are going to be affected, the mean will be affected by an outlier. But the median and mode are not always affected by outliers, aside from counting the total number of values in a data set. So when I say they're not affected, they might be affected a little bit, but not as much as the mean will. So a lot of times if we have big outliers in a data set, we wouldn't want to use the mean as a way of measuring the data itself. The median and mode might be better measures. So that's how we decide which ones we want to use in a data set. So here's an example here. This is the top 10 highest paid actors of 2015 according to Forbes magazine and how much they made. So here we can see all the top paid actors of 2015 and how much they made. It's interesting here we have three of them are actually from India because they have a huge Bollywood following out there. So what we want to do here is actually find the median, mean, and mode of these actors. I'm going to hop off of this for a minute and then go to StatCrunch just to show you how to do it there. It's only 10 values here, and they are in increasing order, so it's easy enough to find the median, but let's look at this in terms of how we would do it in StatCrunch. So I've got StatCrunch already open, so let me just type in these numbers. So I'm going to type in 80, I don't need to type in the million because they're all in terms of millions. 80, 50, 47, 41.5, 41. It's so crazy when you think about people making this much money, at least for me. 0.5, 32.5, and 32. Whenever you type in data, make sure you check yourself that they're the same. 40, 33.5, there's a 32. Okay, so if I want to find the mean, median, and mode, you're going to do this a lot, so make sure you pay attention. It's even bigger. We're going to go to Stat, Summary Stats, Columns. Okay, so Stat, Summary Stats, Columns. And then you're going to choose your column, and it's automatically here going to list all of the possible things, but if I want to just find mean, median, and mode, I can click on mean. If I scroll down, not too far, there's median. I'm going to hit my control key because I have a PC. On the Mac, you got to hit the command key. So mean, median, and mode. And you very well could just leave everything highlighted, it had highlighted. But I just want to look at those three. So if I look at those three and hit compute, I'm not going to change anything else here. You have the mean, median, and mode. So the mean is 43.1, the mode is 40.5. I'm sorry, the mean is 43.1, the median is 40.5, and the mode is 33.5. So if we look back here, so I've got that here, so 43.1, 40.5, and 33.5. Are there any outliers here? So if we look at our data set, the mean and median are kind of close together. They're like 40, in the 40 millions. But if you look, we actually have one guy here, Robert Downey Jr. that made $80 million. That's $30 million more than the next highest paid actor. That seems like an outlier to me. So what I want to do is keep this in mind, and I want to get rid of that 80 million as an outlier and show you how that affects the rest of the data set. So if I go back to StatCrunch, I'm going to get rid of poor old Robert Downey. Well, he just makes too much money. We're not even going to consider him. So let me delete that row. So I'm going to highlight it, go to Edit, and delete that row. So rows delete. Okay. Alright, and I'm going to compute this again. So I'm going to leave this here on the screen just so we can see it. And if I go to Summary Stats, Columns, go to var1 this time, hit mean, median, and mode. And if I compare these two, if you see, the mean now is 39, the median is 40.5, and the mode is still 33.5. So you can see that the mode stayed the same. The median pretty much stayed the same. It did change a little bit, which is why I like this example, so you can see that it's not going to change, it doesn't change much. But the mean changes a lot. So the mean actually falls closer to the median in this case, which actually is now a better descriptor of the entire average, because you see here, most of the data set now falls pretty close to 40, which is what our mean and median are. And the mode 33.5, that's not too close, but it's, the mode doesn't really tell us much here. But you can see that that outlier really knocks the mean down. So it really does make a difference in this case. Alright, so that's pretty much it for that section, looking at the average. The weighted mean is something that you might see here as well. So weighted mean accounts for variations in the relative importance of data values. Each data value is assigned a weight, and the weighted mean is the sum of each data value times its weight divided by the sum of all the weights. This comes into account for you guys really when you're trying to do things like calculate your GPA. GPA is a biggie that most people are pretty concerned about. I know you guys probably are too. Just remember, it's not a make or break thing. I promise you, it's not going to be the end of the world when your GPA changes just a little bit. But anyway, so let me show you an example of how you might use this. And again, we're not going to use this very much. You're not going to have to remember this formula, but I wanted to show you an example. So suppose you have 24 credits with a grade of A. It should be a capital A, so you know it. 20 credits with a grade of B and 8 credits with a grade of C. What is your GPA? The GPA is based on values of 4.0 points for every A, 3.0 points for any B, and 2.0 points for a C. Alright, so what you're going to do is take 24 credits and multiply it by its worth, which is 4. 20 times a B, which is worth is 3, and then 8 times 2, because this point is C. So here you can see that. So it's 4 points, sorry, 4 points for every A, so then say there's 24 credits over A, it's 4 times 24. 3 for all your 20s and 2 for all your C's. And then divide by 24, 20, and 8, because that's how many credits you have in total. And if you do that, you get 172 divided by 52, which is a 3.3 GPA. So again, weighted means not that big of a deal for me, but you might see that some other time, so just keep that in mind. And that's it for 4.1.